Hello and welcome to today's matches on the SADPC Division 1. My name is Nomad and joining me on the panel today we have Snare and we have Astini as we get into today's series, which are looking very juicy, very interesting and very exciting indeed. But firstly, I've got to ask you guys, how are you doing? Snare, I understand you've had a long day, but are you ready for the midnight oil?
Listen, I've had a long day, but the day's mostly been filled with Dota. A little small reprieve for some Tekken in the middle of it, but it's been all Dota, so I'm super hyped. And what a great way to end the day because I think Thunder Predator is one of the teams I love watching the most. So I'm very happy to close out the evening. This is not even midnight oil. This is midnight reward for me at this point.
A little midnight snack, perhaps. Absolutely. Yeah, that is a series we've got in store. It is Thunder Predator versus SG Esports battling it out in this best of three. Astini, what are your expectations coming into this series?
Okay, the expectation, if you take the team's result into account, Thunder Predator is definitely the favorite here, but my expectation is that SG surprises us. So if they can take like one game of Thunder Predator, me as a Brazilian, I would be pretty happy because Thunder Predator, they're just playing insane Dota. They might be the best team in the region, even though, of course, Biscos has been the one at the international events. But this Thunder Predator lineup, they already had the first place on the previous DPC as no ping, and now they're showing godlike performance.
Yeah, it's looking really, really good for them recently. They've had a couple of great tournament wins on the side of Thunder Predator. People feel like questions when they form the roster, but they have absolutely proved everyone wrong, doing fantastically in the BTS Pro Series, and then in both of their games here at the DPCSA.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like you mentioned, there were questions when they formed. But speaking of their formation, I think one of the interesting things about this Thunder Predator lineup and why I like them so much is I always place a lot of currency in teams that stuck it out, right? Done the hard work. It doesn't always pay results, right? We've often seen across the regions teams that are stuck together well past their sell by date. But we've also seen the opposite far too often, teams that break up before they really get good. And this Thunder Predator lineup, before they became Thunder Predator, they spent a long time. The four players, with the sole exception of Packers in the safe lane, everybody else has been together for at least a year, which is in Dota years a long, 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 long time to be in one squad, not changing anything up. They swapped out HFN for Packers at some point in the year, and the team has only gotten better afterwards. And usually when we see kicks like that happen, especially for a storied player like HFN, it makes more sense to me when it's coming from a team that still decides to stick together afterwards. That they don't just kick him because things weren't working out. They're like, we have a specific idea and understanding of where we as a team should be, and we don't feel this player can help us with this, but we feel like this other player can. Let's bring him in, but still keep the big core roster together. And that counts for a lot, especially considering that SG Esports are relatively new, right? Only two of the players have had any kind of experience playing with each other for any duration of time, and that can lead into some difficulties. Dota 2 is a very difficult game. It takes a while to understand one another's rhythms, understand exactly how everybody's ideas about the game mesh together. So a team like Thunder Predator, like, yes, questions when they formed, but I'd rather have a team where there's a longer period of time to ask those questions, right? With SG Esports, not as much tape as I would like available from them just yet. The showing was okay, but I don't think we have a clear idea of what this team is going to be doing. So they definitely are up against it. But like Astini said, when we don't have that information, that leaves the bigger gaps for surprises and for new and interesting things to end up happening in the matchup.
Absolutely. And I want to pick up on something you said there about kind of organization and playing together as five, because Thunder Predator, with their last roster before TI, they were looking very, very good. They picked up Fear as a coach, and then at TI, something happened. We don't know what really. The team fell apart, and unfortunately, that's where that corpse now lies buried, unfortunately. This new team, they don't have a coach either, and they're doing very, very well to start things off. I mean, Astini, is this like a thing with the region where if the players just don't have coaches, they just kind of vibe it out and play better, do you think?
The thing is, when you're looking to find a coach, you need someone that you trust, and usually someone that a very high-level player will trust, someone with results. And in our region, we didn't have so many great results, and the ones that were on those results, they're still playing. So who would you have as a coach? Like, is someone from Beast Coast retiring? Then you might hire that guy. But till they're sticking together, those are the most experienced guys in the region. So either you look outside the region, that's what Thunder tried out, and I believe with the result at TI, it wasn't that impressive. So the ones in the region, they might be even more worried now to look for a coach because feels like if you have this clash of play style, maybe you have this Brazilian or Peruvian, South American freestyle playing, and it works out. And when you try to add some knowledge that comes from outside, it just like freezes your brain because you're thinking one way and you want to play the other way, and it's a clash of play styles that you lose confidence on what you're doing. So that's why I believe most teams do not have a coach now.
Yeah, it does seem to be the growing trend. But let's flip the coin and have a look at SG Esports, who are, of course, the Brazilian organization who are trying to take on Thunder Predator. Now, as we have mentioned, Thunder Predator are the favorites, but SG Esports, they always stand a chance. And we know, especially in the SA region, anything can happen. That is the beauty and the fun of the region, is when the fire gets lit, there is no stopping some of these teams. What has to go right for SG Esports today in order for them to get an advantage? Estini.
Oof. That's all you,
Uh,
Estini, yeah.
Yeah, I
okay.
think it's his Brazilian boys. I wanted to give him a chance to
Yeah,
get in there first.
I think they need to play some comfort that at least they had as SG Energy. So this SG team comes from SG Energy, which is basically their academy lineup. And Heiko, LTH, they were already together there. Arms joined later, so they have some synergy between the three. And I've seen some playstyle from Hiko where he would do like as 3-3 does, that you get that Helm of Dominator and you just keep farming the lane of the hard carry, stealing farm from the other team. And it's something that I have not seen them do as the new SG. So maybe they go back to that roots of SG Energy where they were trying some things that we've seen working for Tundra, some macro plays that are extremely good and they could surprise Thunder Predator, which is a team that also farms very well. They usually farm on 3 lanes. So maybe if you don't try to be so aggressive, but you just try to also farm as they're doing, but farm more parts of the map, play a bit more patient with a bit more of discipline, then they might win the game.
Interesting. So you're saying they should try and play Thunder Predator at their own game a little bit.
Yeah. I guess the only way you counter Thunder Predator is doing Thunder Predator twice or doing Thunder Predator plus 3% because the way they're playing, they play so well. They've been doing this for so long time that they just
Mm.
protect all their farming zones on the map. And if you try aggressions on them, you're just giving them more farm because they always know your moves previously. So maybe you just don't do moves, so they won't know about it. Might be the way.
No, you can't be sitting here and not wanting to say anything about that. Play their
Oh.
games, don't make moves. Like he's kind of, I feel like he's baiting you somewhat.
Dating me a little bit, but I also understand exactly where he's coming from, right? When I've
Mm.
seen these Thunder Predator games, the thing that I've been most impressed by this team, and I actually want to go back and agree with Agostino was saying that I think they're a bit stronger than Beast Coast, is they have so many different looks and so many different ways of winning the game. There's such a greedy lineup as well. Like you mentioned, they farm on all 3 lanes. And if you look at their drafts, right, with this team, not just right now in this iteration of the DPC, but in other tournaments and just before the league started, you'll see that the only 2 players that are playing reliably the same heroes in and out, right? It's only in the support positions. They tend to be so dynamic with how they play on the cores. So you're never really going to find yourself having just one catch-all way to say, okay, here's the strategy, here's the unlock key. We're going to show up, beat them. It's going to be all good for us. I think it is a lot more difficult against this team, especially when them and Beast Coast are sort of setting the tempo and the meta for what South America Dota should look like right now. And that always puts you in a very interesting position where the teams that are beneath you have to figure out, is there a better way to play this game in this region right now? Is there a better understanding that we have than you? So far, everybody else has been wanting in that question. So you might not have another option but to say, well, if you can't beat them, join them. Try to figure out exactly what they're doing, do it better. But at the same time, though, I also really like teams that decide and make the decision to figure out their own style. And one of the reasons why Thunder Predator is so successful and why you have to adopt their play style is because even when it wasn't fully working out for them on no ping, they stuck it out. They kept going with it. Initially, it didn't seem so good, but after a while, you're like, okay, they've clicked, right? They've got some new stratagem going for themselves, and now they're at the top, right? So everybody else sort of has to either imitate them or be prepared to do what they did and spend 2 seasons at the very least grinding out, figuring out new ways to play the game, losing lots and lots of series, losing in different tournaments. and just having the tenacity to keep going until you figure out a new way to approach the game. I think like a good example of this in other regions might be a team like Tundra. And I think they're actually a good example
Yeah.
of a team where everybody else around you is amazing, right, in that region and the time that they're playing. And there was one of two options. Either you become exactly like Team Secret, exactly like Enigma, exactly like an OG. Well, a different story right now, but it's either you do that or you go on your own way. You spend a lot of time grinding. And Tundra have sort of pioneered this extremely team-centric style right now, where every single move that everybody makes feeds into something else that's happening on the map. And now it looks good. You know, now it's at the point where we saw in that series that they played against Secret. Secret even started being like, oh, maybe we should adopt a little bit of these strats. So Thunder Predator in the same boat. They can just keep going. For SG Esports, you got to decide pick your poison, right? Either you try to copy Thunder Predator today and potentially beat them today, or you take the long road and you got to wait till next season. And Dota players are not necessarily known for their patience, especially not in South America. So I don't think that they're going to take the long road. I think the easiest part of success is definitely just taking and copying directly from those who are succeeding right now.
And then you have
Interesting. Go
two
ahead.
problems, because either you copy them and they have way more experience in doing that, because as you mentioned, they've been doing this for 2 years. So their hero pool is just massively on the heroes that work for that.
crazy.
And you're gonna have like 2 heroes. Because you're like, okay, I'm against Dark Mago, just ban his Batrider. Okay, he's gonna pick his Tiny. Then you just ban his Batrider and his Tiny. Okay, he's gonna pick his Kunkka. Okay, you
Yep.
just ban those three. Then he's gonna pick Ember, and
In the
it's gonna
spirit,
be an
yep.
amazing game for Ember because those three are banned. And then it snowballs. It's so hard.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting point because Thunder Predator, there's just some aspects of the fundamental game which they've taken and just seemingly run with and kind of gotten better and better and better at. And, you know, you have to try and punch up to those fundamentals whilst also improving on your own game as well and coming up with some new creative strategies. It's a hard thing to try, but you know, as they say, the master has tried more times than the student. The master has failed more times than the student has even tried. I believe
Yep.
is the phrase there, which could definitely come into effect for this series. Another question on SG, which I want to ask you, Athene. You seem to know a lot about the team which these guys came from, the development team. Who should we be looking at as possibly an up and coming star of the SA region from this team of youngsters?
Oh, all of them, they're somehow up and coming. KXY, he has amazing mid lane. He plays so well on lane phase, but he still seems to be lost in the mid game. I guess if he finds someone more experienced that can help him out during the game, he could be an amazing player. The thing is, I find the same thing about the other four. Like, they have so much talent, but they need someone more experienced, and we don't have that more experienced player in the team. That might be Hiko. So Hiko should take the lead on the game. That's guy we should look for.
All right, thank you very much, Steenie. As we get into this draft for the first game of the day, it is, of course, Thunder Predator versus SG Esports here at the DPC SA Region Division 1. And we're going to kick things up with the Mars now.
Of course, it's going to be Mars. Mars is in practically every other game right now. I'm actually sick of seeing Mars and Tidehunter, but it is what it is. There's a reason they're picked all the time. Very dynamic hero as well, can do a lot. But I think the main reason you picked this first, there's so many combos that are available. You know, China's pioneered the Mars Snapfire. We see Mars with the Dark Willow. Thunder Predator, this is actually such a good idea. Just take away the Snapfire, the best combo with the Mars. You can potentially follow this up by grabbing Tidehunter. We've seen those two heroes being comboed up together quite often. And there we go. Snap Tide, let's go. You now have the team fight advantage against the Mars because your ultimate is just flat out better in the current meta right now. Got massive amounts of magic damage. You've got some armor debuff in the lane. A good laning phase as well with the Snapfire. So love this opening. And I think SG Esports, whenever I see the response being Snap Tide to the Mars opening pick, I always feel that that team just wishes they just first picked Tidehunter instead.
Yep. Yeah, this Snapfire's just felt so strong in pretty much every region I've been watching recently. Like, every time I look at SEA, you know, it's popping up there, it's popping up in EU, it's now popping up in SA. Like, this hero is getting popularity slowly but surely across the world. Does feel really intuitive for the team to just pick this up and do super well with it. What does it bring to a draft, though, Steenie?
The things why we don't see so much on first phase is Monkey can counter him so well on the lane. But if you don't go monkey straight here, you just like know he's gonna have like a decent lane, and by having just a decent lane, he can guarantee so much team fight for you. And the game now runs so much around that Roche fight, right? So if you have the Ravage, that AoE control during a team fight at the Roche pit, you almost secure it. So that's why this hero is so strong.
5 seconds remaining.
Rather
You
silly.
see, I was gonna say that having the Dark Willow come out from Mars did feel like this is one of the reasons I also don't like seeing first pick Mars these days. It feels like if the enemy team picks Snap Tide, then you have no choice but to go Dark Willow, or you have to go something really funky to able to buttress your damage, like some Scareth Mage or something to help you out in that regard. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't feel like Dark Willow is in that great of a place right now, unless the combo works out, right? There's been a lot of games I've seen with this hero where, you know, cool spells come out, cool stuff looks like it's happening, but we never really see it turn into a team win, turn into a game win for them. And at some point, you just ask yourself, like, about the effectiveness of the hero. Like, Terrorize, for example, versus Morty's Kisses. You'd always rather have Morty's Kisses. You don't have, like, a quick, easy disable. You don't have a very, like, insane amounts of burst damage unless you go a very specific build on the hero. I don't know. How do y'all feel about this? Because I feel Dark Willow right now, unless you absolutely have to, you know, there's almost always other heroes that you could be picking in the meta.
I don't know, the hero he either feels like had an amazing game and had so much impact, or that had no impact at all. It's such a hero that you go all in or nothing. And the thing is, since Thunder Predator is the favorite, we might end up saying, okay, the hero was not that useful. Because you need somehow to have items with this hero to scale in the game. You need that early Ill Scepter so you can actually get kills, because the cast range is not that great. And to have that, you should have a nice lane. And if you pick that combo on the very first phase of the draft, then the other team knows what to pick to answer to that. It's a reason they ban Abaddon. It's a dispel that can break the combo. And the thing is, against Thunder Predator, you ban Abaddon because Panda Boo is just godlike with the hero. But if Abaddon is banned, then the Batrider is open. And now they banned the Batrider. And if Batrider is banned, Kanka is open. And then they need to ban Kanka. That's the thing. Those are exactly the heroes I mentioned.
It really is, yeah. They're trying to chase around, play whack-a-mole, but unfortunately they only have one mallet, and there's 20 moles to hit. Not really happening.
Yeah, and now they get to pick up a strong 5 for Panda Boo. I'd say an Ogre is the most likely hero to see here.
Either Ogre or Bane probably is going to come out here, but Ogre's probably better to give some buff up into the safe lane as well, whatever hero they're going to play there. And alright, it's the other one. So Bane, that's the option for them. Another one of his most played heroes. So SG Esports, now you're in this weird bind, right? You know the enemy team has big team fight with the Tide Hunter, Snapfire. Now they have BKB, Piercing Disable, and they have very good lanes. So what do? Do you go in and decide, you know what, we'll just try to make sure we secure the lanes as much as possible? Do we pick Ogre ourselves? Okay, turns out we do. So now we have Ogre Medusa, or Ogre Gyro. All right. No Medusa today, but still AoE damage, it's fine.
It's Medusa Light, sure. We'll take it.
Yeah, and it's something we've seen being played on the first division of South America, this Gyro. The hero can scale so much, but, well, there's Morphling open, and that's Baka's Morphling. This guy is godlike with the hero, and you have, like, below Gyro.
Oh, it's such a good Morphling game. What have you done, SG Esports? I feel like they've put themselves in such a position here, which is going to be kind of tricky to get out of. I mean, are there any problems for those Morphlings so far in this draft, or do we think that it's all going to come from this final pick from SG to raise some issues for him?
For me, it's a free morph game so far.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of... No, come on, Astine. We've got to be nice. You know, we've got to think of at least as one confounding variable. All right, he won't be able to early in the game, right? When he has low levels in waveform, Dark Willow will be safe from a lot of the right clicks. There we go. So, not 100% fee, but for the most part, yeah, this is... We're not expecting any struggles here for the Morphling. Does feel like he's going to have zero worries. Like you already mentioned, there's Dark Willow, there's Gyrocopter for additional buff up. His team has so many ways to either prevent him from dying or just ensure that the enemy team can't actually get to him. It's kind of crazy right now, SG Esports. And what makes this worse is they don't have last pick. If you have last pick, at the very least, maybe. But let's say you go ahead and you try to get the biggest counter pick into this Morphling that's possible. But I don't even know what's left in the draft now that does that job for you. But even if you do, then Thunder Predator is just like, cool. Fuckers, you're gonna have a little bit of a rougher time here, my friend. However, after that, it becomes a super easy game for Dark Mago. You're just like, alright fam, what do you want to play? Make life as easy for him as possible. And there's only really mid laners left to pick. All the mid laners that are really good right now aren't necessarily really good against Smurfling. Like, buys Manta, so he's not worried about these heroes with silences. Buys BKB, not worried about these massive burst heroes. Buys E-Blade. So if you try to... Oh, the Kunka's banned, but if you were going to go for some Kunka or whatever, you can get that burst against you. It really... Yo, I actually have no idea what they would pick right now for SG Esports to try and close this one out. That gives them both good synergy with the rest of their lineup and is good against Morphling.
Yeah, and then they are banning the Broodmother. It's a Heiko hero. Like, he plays so well with the hero. He was playing at SG Energy. He won many games by that clutch pick. Could be an option that they snowball and don't allow the Morphling to get in the game. And it's a clever ban right now because KXY, of course, he can do the Mars mid. So it's a good target ban. But I think I would go for another mid laner because you don't have burst on off laners usually, but you'd have with a Queen of Pain, I believe would be the best pick here for SG. That Queen of Pain that you don't buy like no talisman, you just rush the Malevolence.
What do you think about OD, like in this game as well for SG here at the end of the draft? Having some kind of save potential, massive amount of magical burst, that's always going to be good against the Morph. A meme hammer buyer so you can at least get going early.
I don't think OD's that hard counter to Morphling anymore with the he works. And there's control on the 4 heroes on the other side, so it's really hard to pull that Meteor Hammer combo.
Yeah, there's like 2 heroes which don't care about it, and the Bane which can mess it up with the Nightmare saves as well. So they'll go with the TA instead. That'll be the pickup from SG Esports. So just deciding to kind of go for a very high tempo draft where they just want to kind of hit these item timings on the TA and the Gyro and just run at them.
10 seconds.
Is that possible? I mean, they have good team fight, right?
5 seconds remaining.
Yes.
It's
But
so...
you know that yes, like yes.
Come on, guys, work with me here.
So I don't know, man. This TA, it feels like they need so much farm on SG Esports to be effective in any capacity in this game. And you know, I know we talked about playing the farm game against Thunder Predator, but you asked me to play a farm game, and the one team has Morphling Tiny Tidehunter, the other one has Gyro TA Mars. Sure, the Gyro TA can get to that point where they're just taking over everything, but the question is, can they get there in one piece? Because Thunder Predator, with this last pick for the Dark Mago Tiny, Dark Mago Tiny is terrifying. And it's terrifying primarily because he plays with maximum aggression, doesn't play like one of these farming style Tiny, so the entire map, he's gonna be running around, making not always just kills happen, but disrupting the farm patterns of SG Esports, making life difficult for them. Hackers is pretty much a master of being able to find farm in very small pockets and knowing when to show up to fights. You love having that ability if there is a Tiny in the game, so that whenever you do show up to a fight, somebody dies every time. They have not that many ways either on the side of SG Esports. Actually, they have no ways to deal with any BKBs or magic protection from Thunder Predator. So if they don't have like exemplary lanes and Thunder Predator just get like a couple of items, it does feel super difficult right now for SG Esports to eke out a win with the way that the draft is looking.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you know, how have we ended up with Thunder Predator have like 4 out of 5 of their players on like their favorite heroes? But as Astini said earlier on, you know, like they have about 10 favorite heroes each, so it's pretty difficult to restrict that hero pool down. I don't know. SG, we're worried for them. I think it's going to be a battle of how much space they can create for themselves and how much they can hold on to this game. It just feels too greedy though, with the Gyrocopter and the TA both wanting to farm up. I mean, what is their approach? How can they keep themselves in this game long enough to find their timings, Astini?
Yeah, that's what I believe should be the approach, as I suggested. You know that Thunder Predator, they will be farming till they hit timings. So you just farm and play on your BKB timings. That should be their main goal here.
Yep, and there is one cool combo in that SG draft which they can fall back on, and that is, of course, the Mars Willow with the Fear inside the arena. That can work. Maybe a big one of those in like the early mid game could get them out of a tricky situation. But yeah, I assume, Snare, you're going to be leading the way off Thunder Predator for this first game.
Yeah, even if, honestly, let me be 100% real with you, right? Just the presence of Dark Mago Tiny makes me believe in Thunder Predator. Just watch and you'll understand, and you'll see how I feel about this, and you'll see why I have this intuition.
Absolutely. All right, Asini, any final words from you?
I go with exactly with what Snare said. That will be the Dark Mago Tiny just rolling over.
Looking pretty rough, but let's see how this cookie crumbles with our lovely casting duo of Gareth and Lacoste.
Thank you, boys. Yeah, it's a bit bandwagony, but I am in full agreement. Dark Mago, Tiny, signature hero. They've got 3-4 signature heroes for Thunder Predator. Lacoste, free Morphling game potentially as well.
Pretty much. They have no real lockdown. They don't have a single silence. Maybe what they're looking for is like timing once Templar Assassin hits Deso plus a BKB or a Blink Dagger timing, and then they go, because Gyrocopter like tends to farm a lot. My problem with these two cores is you can counter them with one single item. That's Heaven's Halberd. It's very effective on a Tidehunter. So his itemization for this game ideally would be getting Hood into Heaven's Halberd or a Blink Dagger, or other way around, depends how they feel about it, because your Tiny will be the one initiating the fight. It's a mid Tiny, which means that the Blink Dagger is going to come online very quickly. And I'm not a big fan of, once again, TA plus Gyro, because what they want to do, both heroes, they kind of want to farm the triangle. So one will need to go around the map and do stuff, or
See, the funny thing is,
find somewhere to farm.
When you said there's one item that counters them, I thought you were going to say sentry wards. You block the ancients with sentry wards because they both kind of want to be farming triangle, right? You block up a couple of their camps, all of a sudden that goes out the window. I think it also comes back to a point the panel made mid-panel, saying there's a number of ways that you can try and play as SG, Division 1 team, but not necessarily a Division 1, squad or roster, going up against a team like Thunder Predator, ex-Noping, who were first place in Season 2. Either you try and match their style or you try something funky. And I think they've done a pretty good job here in terms of having a draft that can defend high ground, hold triangle, farm up to 20, 25 minutes in, and then go. Because we saw them struggle against Infamous when they had this kind of split pushing lineup with Io and Lesh and trying to move around the map too much. This feels much simpler, and they're definitely trying out a few different strats here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Dota is a weird game. Anything can work if you can make it work. So I don't necessarily think SG has a bad lineup if they can hit the timings. Still favoring Thunder Predators lineup because they're more solid. They gave him a lot of top tier heroes that are in meta right now for a reason. Having just Snapfire plus Tidehunter, this lane is extremely deadly, and you also have Bane, who's the strongest position 5 at the moment. You have a BKB piercing ability, and Feeble in the mid-late game is just the top tier ability that reduces healing and regeneration. So any kind of satanic or anything, you have a built-in save. Something that I noticed that other regions are not doing, because I've been covering E-West and also North America, mid-tiny, that's not a thing, but this is the second or even a third mid-tiny in South America.
Yeah, we saw it Season 1 and Season 2 in the previous league as well. South America loves this tiny, and there's a number of players that do still like to grab it up. We even saw it, position 2 and 4 and 3. I think Matthew played it a bunch. We had a bit on Beast Coast grabbing it. It's definitely one of their favorites to move around the map and cause chaos, as he's so good at doing. Very early on, SG have a sentry ward out placed in that small camp, so trying to delay Dark Mago's farming early on, and all grouped up around that bottom bounty rune spot, but unfortunately under vision from that early Radiant Observer ward, which does get placed on the dire side of the river.
And they kill the sentry. Matthew manages to devour the small camp, already preparing.
Nice.
So Dark Mago can get some extra farm on the Tiny. And it's also very easy for Tiny to stack that small camp with the 3-throw if that's necessary. And he also farms it very quickly. Starting with the 3-throw, You want to max out your other abilities. This is a mid tiny. It's not a carry tiny, something that we've seen during TI quite a lot. So Avalanche, Toss need to be maxed out. You want to be very active around the map. But the last tiny I saw from South America was top tier. First 12 minutes, then just completely fall off. Still, Hero does a lot of things. It also opens up any kind of rotation from position 4, like just a cookie into back toss. Any repositioning abilities on you, or your teammates is gonna work out quite nicely, and especially on the enemies. One of the reasons like why Mars is so popular, or why Magnus was top tier, besides Shard during TI, pretty much banned or picked every single game.
Yeah, that positioning, displacement, so good. And just to bring into context, I remembered something from the previous season of DPC. Oh, hang on, that gyro onto Matthew top lane, very low. Ogre trying to chase, but he's got the salve on the Snapfire, so he's going to heal up here and allow Oscar to do a bit more damage with these anchor smashes, forcing the gyro away. Now Widge on the Ogre might be in a bit of trouble. There's another Scatter Blast. They're considering which target to go for, the Ogre or the Gyro or both, and they choose the Ogre. Still pretty
full
tanky,
creep
though,
wave near
he's
the
fine.
tower. This is not good. Matthew needed to TP out. He's half HP, literally 0 mana, has 1 mango to work with, and they lost a lot of CS on Tidehunter. Also, I don't think you should go for Anchor Smash level 1, doesn't really do much, especially since you're playing into range hero. So getting a Gush is much, much better, and we can see now SG getting level 2 faster. This is probably going to result in a first blood.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, he pops his stick and anchor smashes again, but it's 2 more hits for the Gyro to secure it. He gets it, even behind the tree. Bends that bullet right around it. First blood for your Gyro. And then, again, your point expanded. There's another creep wave coming into this tower, which Tide is going to lose out a little bit of.
This is one of the strongest lanes besides, like, Snapfire Doom, Snapfire Mars.
No, he's not.
So yeah, back to the top lane. I don't think they're playing the top lane correctly, especially with the skills that they got level 1. Because what Ogre wants to do is go in, possibly use Ignite on both heroes, so that means he's going to be out of place. And then with Gush, minus armor in dual lanes, you get so much value from it, because both heroes are hitting it. And now Matthew with the nice little Shredder, killing the Rocket. Level 1, well, Shredder is really not that great, but if you combine it with Gush, then it's ton of minus armor.
Yeah, you do some serious damage. Yeah, that point about the Tiny, though, we saw Dark Mago up against a Bat Rider, Tiny versus Bat, and he crushed that lane. He went like 2-0, got Blink Dagger at like, I don't know, 9 minutes with Brown Boots. That's the kind of player he is. He has played this hero so much, even in disadvantageous matchups, as when you see that replay back. That worried me there for a second. I was like, wait, is Tide dying again? No, we have the First Blood replay. Watching it come all the way back. But yeah, Dark Mago, so good on Tiny. He's played so many different hero matchups in pubs and in officials. He knows exactly what he needs to do. Currently 16-3 against the 18-5 of TA, so pretty close fought battle in the CS between them. And the final lane, Lacoste bottom, we've not really looked at too much. How's it going down there for the Mars versus Morphling?
Morphling should get a free farm in this lane. I don't think they threaten a kill unless, like, check Mars. He doesn't even have a spear at the moment. Should definitely try to get it. Not sure why he decided to get Bulwark level 2. Not something that I've seen people do, like, ever.
Curious. I guess he's against 2 ranged, but yeah, you'd expect Willow Mars to be the aggressors, right?
I'm leaning
Playing
towards
forward.
Misclick, Gary.
Yeah, you might just be right. You might just be right. Oh, they keep that damage going from Pakaz onto him, and top lane again, the scrappy battles. Ogre and Gyro really pushing this lane very far forward. Does allow Oscar to get a ton of experience, maybe even chase back onto the Ogre now, but Matthew being hounded by the arms. Gyro very low on the Snapfire with just a Tango and a few stick charges to play with. And Tidehunter opting for the Bracer this game. I've seen a lot of the double gauntlets into Ring of Health and back into your normal Brown Boots, your Soul Ring and stuff like that. As Widge drops,
Cookie misses.
Arms just sidesteps it quite simply.
But with a Gush,
They
they
have
should be
another
able
Gush
to get
here,
him.
though.
Yeah, it's too much damage and
so.
slow and minus armor and everything. Yeah, to go back to your Bracer point, Bracer is definitely the worst out of 3. Raid Band top tier, Null Tally okay for the cost. Bracer is just not worth to buy this item. It's not cost efficient.
Yeah. So what's the reason here? Because I remember it used to be very good against, let's say, a Juggernaut lane, where the Bracer allows you to sustain through that level 2 spin, for example, on most heroes. Is it a similar case here against, like, Flat Cannon, Ignite, and Rocket Barrage?
I don't know why he decided to buy double gauntlets. Is great. You keep it that way. It's damage. You don't die level 1 because you have so much strength. And you can also upgrade it to Soul Ring once you get Ring of Health. So, not sure why he went for it. I want to see what Gyro gets. Like, does he max out? Because I had this discussion with a lot of other panelists. Taking stats over any of your abilities kind of seems meh, especially on Gyro. Because I'll say it again. I think I've said it a couple of times already. Where let's say you have 2 extra points in Rocket Barrage, which means a lot of damage. You get 1 kill, and instead, if you had like +4 stats, the amount of farm you're gonna get from having +4 damage, a little bit of armor, a little bit of mana regen, blah blah blah, yada yada, still not worth it. If you just get 1 kill in like 25 minutes, skilling Rocket Barrage is much more worth it.
It's worth it, yeah. I also think I agree with that, with the fact they've got TA who wants to be farming Triangle earlier. I don't know how you feel about this, but I see Gyro, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes in with magical damage, running around and doing some crazy shit, while TA is maybe farming a little more. But it's actually KXY that moves into top to play aggressively into the side lane. The roaming Templar Assassin gets 1 and looks for Oscar as the bonus kill. He's not level 6, so there's no Ravage, no setup, and no TP reaction here. And the Predator getting run down by this Gyro. And Templar Assassin giving KXY a double kill.
Now, good moves from SG there. Pressuring the top lane, going for the kill. Also, Gyro got the first blood, which was something that should not happen. And now having a Falcon Blade, Spear, Pakas, he should be okay. Yeah.
He missed his spear, and then Arms dies to Dark Margot's rotation as Tiny shows his face in the top lane. Getting some retribution up there. We'll have a bottle refill from the Tide as he comes in from the base.
7 minutes 30 seconds. Tiny, Boots of Speed, going for Blink Dagger, just 500 gold away. Like, this is like pretty impressive, I would say, considering the matchup that he's been playing into. And also 1 extra rotation, 1 kill if he gets it. That's gonna be like 9 to 10 minutes Blink Dagger. But I don't think you can ask for anything better on your mid Tiny.
Yeah, that's like exactly the same story I was telling about this Dark Margot Tiny against the Bat Rider, right? You got a couple of kills, got that early CS, got that 9-minute blink. As Pandamu slowed and speared, Templar Assassin now has 3 kills to her name. Also having a spectacular time, like 60 and 10 on the CS, which translates to, what, 4,200 net worth almost. And that's even before she's managed to clear out ancient stacks, which are built up for her in that dire triangle.
Templar Assassin definitely gets priority for clearing the triangle. Gyro with 3 points in Flat Cannon, still like not enough. I want to see the item build because I've seen different item builds on carry Gyros. I like this Dragonlance into this assemble, and he also got the first blood, which Falcon Blade is fine, so that means he will have a bit more mana sustain right now, just going to jungle. And Templar Assassin also going for Dragonlance first item. Easy disassemble. It was kind of a must-have item on Templar Assassin. Once her level 10 talent was Psyblade's range, now it's back to 15.
Yeah.
And I've seen Templar Assassins instead getting Deso because of that. This is, I believe, the first time I see Dragonlance as a first item on TA. Since the
I think
changes.
I've seen it a couple of times with safe lane TA still going Dragonlance first. But I think mid-tier, you're right. We see that Deso as Dark Margot with the Arcane Rune gets a simple pick-off on the Willow, so that's his Blink Dagger reveal shown off to SG. The first of many from Thunder Predator as they ping out in that triangle. They know Pandamu has spotted out the TA. They've got a Mars Arena, though, zoning Dark Margot out. Matthew, he can turn onto Hiko here and blow up the Mars. They save their TA and the farm area. Pandaboo kind of isolated though. Gyro's rotation. Oh, the Avalanche toss combo. Dark Margot gets a double kill. Now surrounded by the Ogre and Templar, but the Mortimer's Kisses. It's going to do tremendous damage onto SG. Saving up the Tiny for now, and Avalanche comes in. Pakas aiming the TA, but a refraction keeps her safe for a second, and a nice Curse Crown lands on Tiny, stopping his advance, while Ogre and Willow also drew the attention of the rest of Thunder Predator, who immediately smoke, but under a dire Observer Ward.
Very surprised SG decided to take that fight. This is Tiny with the Blink Dagger, who also had Arcane Rune. 10 minutes in,
Yeah.
this is the best rune you can get, and he managed to get off a couple of combos, and now picks up the region, so he will be ready to go. Ogre also preparing himself against Tiny combo, buying the Raindrop, has 10 Magic Stick charges. It's a kind of a must-have item.
Toss back, Avalanche, and the grip, chucking everything at KXY here. Reasonably tanky, and one charge is up the sleeve. A refraction turnaround allows the TA to battle into Matthew. One kill, turn it into two. A double kill for TA, that Dragon Lance, and the treads allow her to tank through that burst damage, which was chucked at her by Thunder Predator.
A lot of overlapping spells there. They use Snapfire Cookie, they use Tiny combo, also there was no back toss. So they needed maybe to isolate to get a couple of tower hits, go through the refraction. And she's super tanky with this build. Going for Dragon Lance, you have a stick, and also Pig Ball, which gives +6 attributes. So you have 18 extra strengths, and also 26 if you have Power Treads on strength. So very hard to kill, and also her refraction came off cooldown, used it once again. Thunder Predator, they're on a run. Like, they want to make something happen right now. They want to get this Tiny Blink Dagger online even more. So he's been involved in 4 kills so far, got all the last hits. Oh, wrap around.
Hello. There's the jump. Shadow Realm's there from the Willow. And this is a massive group up from SG. There's 4 heroes here. There's the Bedlam onto the Tiny, and Arena captures the Snap as well. The wraparound not paying off for Thunder Predator, as the Snap stuck up on the high ground, but the trap will give vision. And this is down to Thunder Predator, like you say, trying to get that Tiny active, but they're playing very wide across the map, aren't they? All 3 lanes being inhabited by Thunder Predator.
They didn't have enough heroes there. Unfortunately, smoked with only 2, got outnumbered. So far, we have not seen Ravage being used. Thunder Predator managed to take down the tier 1 tower on the top lane. Still full HP, tower on the bottom, so that means they can defend it. I think the biggest part is this Morphling has a complete free farm. He's still not as strong as TA, of course, because TA has side blades. Morphling does not have that, so he can't really match up the farm, but eventually he will be able to match it. Going for... what is he going for? Just a casual Yasha at the moment.
Oof. Good cookie. Oh, not quite good enough. Hiko still going to get taken down here. They're even going to use the kisses. Matthew makes damn sure he dies. And this time, Thunder Predator absolutely bring the numbers. Blinking forward again. The Ravage is there at arms, all caught up in the stuns. Out of position on that gyrocopter. And this will allow Thunder Predator to even bring the Morphling in. So they go from that wide open map to playing incredibly tight in the mid lane to take the tier 1.
Even without ultis, Thunder Predator still feel very strong to fight with. Here comes Tiny again.
Back. Just keep chucking people in. Ogre down. Terrorizes there, but Mars Arena spearing onto the Tide as the TA is gripped up. The Bane has backstabbed and controls KXY, now out of mana. One charge is not even going to get used. Dead before she lands on the ground, and now Mars avalanched and slowed the TA Morphling, melding and minus armoring even more with this gush and little shredder onto the Mars. Another toss and a triple for Dark Margot.
That's what I just said. Like, they don't care about the cooldowns. There is no Ravage, there is no Mortimer's Kisses. They still decide to take this fight. And Tiny, rune control. So far, I believe he had every single rune, which allows it, like, it's especially strong on heroes like Storm Spirit, Void Spirit, or Tiny, where you can just keep refreshing it, going in and out. Like right now, he's farming the stacked camp. He has almost the same amount of farm as Morphling at the moment, going into Echo Saber. Echo Saber got nerfed, Tiny in general got nerfed, but still feels very strong if you can hit your timings, if you get those 2 items. And I'm really glad he's going for Echo Saber build, because this allows you to scale.
Absolutely does. Out of the last 4 runes, he did get 3 of them. Arcane, Regen, and only one of them, Bane, actually took an Illusion rune to, I believe, just make sure that it didn't get taken by the TA. Such a different setup there from Thunder Predator, bringing everybody into that mid lane to claim the objective they needed. And now SG trying to do a similar thing bottom. They've got TA showing. 3 heroes sat behind her. And it looks like it's Arm's turn on the gyro now to clear triangle, get a bit of farm going as he moves towards the Aghanim Scepter. Do you like that? I know the panel was talking about the BKB timings being incredibly important here, and TA is going Dragonlance BKB. Would you have liked to see Gyro go Dragonlance BKB as well, or is Aghanim's such an important item for him?
Templar Assassin just finished this, so she definitely needs damage to be able to lock on the target and just instantly kill it. Gyrocopter invested a lot of gold in like smaller items. He had a very good start, so I don't mind a Falcon Blade, then a Dragonlance into Aghanim Scepter, but this will also mean you will not get the Aghanim, because Aghanim Scepter is your farming item. You can disassemble, that's what he's gonna do. Disassemble the Dragonlance to get the Aghanims faster, and then possibly go for either Dragonlance, or keep that, what's it called, Band of Elven Skin, make SNY out of it. Like, you can do so much with the disassembling, it's insane. Like, one of the reasons why Dragonlance and Echo Saber were super popular, and still are.
Yeah, and I guess this realization is why Oscar, he's got that blink dagger now, doesn't go for the hood into halberd straight away, knowing that he's got another, a good 5-6 minutes here to blink, ravage anybody he wants to, pre-BKB on SG.
It's also a way to close the gap
for SG right now.
Yeah, and they feel very comfortable going inside the Roche pit. They have a ton of minus armor medallion done on Snapfire, plus a little shredder, morphing with the Elu's Gush. This Roche goes down so quickly, and I don't think they can control and kill Tidehunter from 100 to 0.Maybe they can if he's sitting at the 50% HP, but seems like SG, they don't know about Roche.
Yeah, they've either got no idea or no real option to go and contest it there. Very scary running into that Tide Tiny. So Aegis on Pakas. Morphling with that Manta heading into E-Blade next. Pushing out that top wave. Nice to see the Tide and the Bane sitting near the outpost. Make sure there's nobody coming from south. Dark Willow all alone, LTH. Tucked in behind the trees. Arms is finding a decent amount of space though. Gyrocopter farming Radiant side jungle. Occasionally pushing out that bot wave.
I don't think they can match this Aegis Morphling, and they can't play around the Tidehunter. It's very hard. They need to use like everything. They need to blow him up with TA, cooldown, and use Terrorize on top of him. Otherwise, I don't see him not using Ravage in a fight.
Yeah, I think he's going to get it off every single time. Well, with that top tier 2 gone, not many objectives left for Thunder Predator to claim. Mid tier 2, bottom lane, triangle. This is a pretty perfect position for Radiant to be in. You can see that line being drawn by the Mars, right? Guard this high ground, protect the triangle, because that's where Thunder Predator want to play. If they can get into triangle, they got ease of access into mid and bottom towers. Nice little platform for them to launch off of.
And we still haven't seen the full combo from Morphling. Toss back on the mid lane. That's going to be an easy one.
There's just nothing to stop it. No one to save him.
Morphling has so many good targets he can turn into this game. Going for a Dark Willow or Gyro. That's just going to be very hard to deal with. I think at this point you want to go Gyro, use the Flak Cannon, deal as much AoE damage as possible. And we see Gyro disassembling the Dragonlance and still going back for it, because this item is really good. And then you can disassemble it again, get a BKB. If you disassemble it more than 3 times, the item actually disappears.
It's just gone. Dark Margo blinks away. Nobody catching him this time. That means bottom tier 1 is very simple for Thunder Predator to destroy. Matthew going to clear out the wave, push it towards the tier 2.
And also,
Yeah,
like, just the cost efficient. One of the reasons why you don't go Bracer on a Tide Hunter is you run out of items so quickly. You need to sell it. Like right now, he's keeping the Soul Ring because it makes much more sense. And talking about the itemization again, something that I mentioned. Just go for the Heaven's Halberd. This item completely ruins both cores of SG, so no surprise he's getting it after. It also makes you much more tanky, very hard to burst, status resistance, and the miss chance is going to be what's going to keep him alive.
Dark Margot had a crack there. He was trying to blow up two of them. Willow and Mars stood right next to each other. But you can see the challenges that SG are facing. Like, Morph Illusions are shoving in mid lane. They've got the full force actually on the tier 2 bottom. They do have this Aegis for another minute and a half. Using that glyph quite early on could signal a high ground attempt here from Thunder Predator. Catapult wave is coming in. I think they just pinged it out, saying, hey, we've got Catapult. We could.
But what is
threaten
that? It's a catapult. Here. We can go high ground. Yeah. We still have minute and 20. Ideally, you would want to have this Eagle song on Morphling. He's about to finish it. Perfect timing.
Well, he goes Scepters and walks up high ground into a bramble. Dark Margot, Tiny, does have that blink cancelled for a couple of seconds.
Oh, his courier died, so needs to go back to Dire Secret Shop and buy it there. Very low on HP. Aegis regeneration will kick in 50 seconds. There's the E-Blade.
Right to the dragons coming at you. And we need this for SG. A bit of desperation. Need some drastic movements. A smoke as 5 all the way across the map. Could pay off for them if they can find him. Dark Margot's Tiny has... Oh, he's evacuated. They scan the triangle. There's no one there.
Yeah, if you see this scan, your Aegis ran out. Good teams, they know something's cooking. Like, it's very easy to predict what they want to do. And look at the positioning. Matthew was still smoked. Oscar hiding inside the jungle. They're keeping the triangle alive. Dark Mago, a bit far away from the team, but senses something bad is happening. Has a very good read. Here's the Aegis.
TP scanned them as well. TP know exactly where SG are, even if they don't have the vision to fully clarify the position. We're just standing in a position here to try and break some smokes, as is that Eco Mars. So they also feel like something's happening. Both teams itching for a bit of action. SG, the ones that desperately need a team fight victory here, though, to break the rut they've been in the past 5-6 minutes or so. TA has now been overtaken by the Morphling. Starting to fall behind in the net worth.
What a weird last 2 minutes has been. Both teams sticking together, holding hands in case something happens. Matthew manages to blink out.
Nice blink. Now, it's clever, though, isn't it, right? Both teams want to fight, but they both want to fight where they want to fight. They want to be waiting on a high ground for the enemy team to come up to them. So they're not making any rash decisions to just run and charge at their opponents there. They were waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Unfortunately for SG, they give up their position to go back to defend the lanes, and that leaves Ogre completely out in open water.
For SG, best possible scenario, they find only position 5. So all good. We still yet have to see some big combo with Mars, Arena, and Terrorize. They managed to pull off 1, maybe 2 heroes caught inside of it. But as time goes by, it's just going to get harder and harder. I see Morphling that has BKB queued up, which means that they have nothing that goes through Magic Immunity. So that's going to be really hard. You can kill him only by using some right clicks. He doesn't care too much about Deso and Meld minus armor. Has 37 armor right now. Very good. Thank you, Ice Frog.
Very powerful. Yeah, and Tiny has his own BKB as well, right? So he's not going to worry too much about the magic damage or the disables coming. Matthew in that mid lane and a spear onto Pandaboo. Catch the Bane and the Snapfire. Looking for that pick off. SG get ravaged up. Mars and TA caught out by it. Dark Mango trying to arrive now. They've got the Arena though, zoning him out. So Gyro, he's able to launch towards the Tide and get 3 kills in quick succession for SG.
Good stuff. I think this one comes down to Thunder Predator, their execution. Matthew going with them, but this time around was not able to blink out. I think you just say, screw it, we're gonna take this loss, use 2 supports, and possibly use a buyback if any of them had it, or just dodge a fight, lose a tier 2 tower instead. Because this move from SG kind of keeps them in the game. If they do it one more time, let me check the net worth. It's 6k gold lead, but it doesn't really feel that much, especially once Gyro decides to pick up a BKB. So you're not gonna be too cautious. Like, you don't need to care about the Tidehunter's Ravage anymore. And Tide uses Ravage. I think there's a bit of a miscommunication, because if you watch the fight closely, Tidehunter goes in, there is no follow-up. Tiny on a minimap, he looks like he's close in a range of a Blink Dagger, but his Blink was on cooldown.
Yeah. And they might even go again here. There's a quick little nightmare onto the Mars. Essence Ring used. He's tanky, but not tanky enough. As Oscar blinks forward in towards Widge, they've got the Mortimer's Kisses launched out towards the TA, who's been gripped up. The Bane finds the pick from long range, but the BKB's there for KXY. Should be able to disengage, goes for the TP, in fact, as Matthew moves forward. Now aiming towards the Widge Ogre instead. Collateral damage as the 2 supports should drop, but Bedlam will get LTH a kill at the very least. But Gyro and TA surviving.
Another Predator, even without ultis, they feel they can take a fight. It was just them getting caught off guard. Gyro being pinged out. You need to start with Tiny. You need to start with Toss, otherwise he's going to be able to get the BKB off. So if Tiny's not the one who's initiating, they can't burst him.
Oh, they go for round 2 on that high ground, though. And Roshan is alive now, but a spear back onto the Morphling. Nightmare saves him, so Pakas able to turn and attribute shift up to strength. Turns to the Gyro for the flat cannon to launch out some AoE damage. And he E-blades the TA, but that allows her to refract and meld and hide away in invis. While Hiko running forward with like 200 HP. They should find Oscar here.
Oscar, he's still alive.
No, Oscar surviving. No way. He is still alive. They waveform back with the Morph, and Dark Margo very low, hiding in the trees. Blink Dagger in 5 seconds. He goes for the TP, but the minus armor Melt Strike blasts through him.
That's 2 buybacks.
Thunder Predator on the retreat.
One from Mars, one from Dark Willow. Still, they get nothing from this, but if they can run inside the pit, that'd be great. They see Roshan spawning with the trap, so let's see what they want to do. They know that Ravage is off cooldown. Let's see if they decide to respect it.
Such an important thing for a TA draft to get that Aegis. Doubled our Observer Wards here around the Radiant Triangle, spotting out the Tide, sees the Snapfire as well. Radiant Obs sees them going into Roche though, so both teams with a pretty good idea of what's going on all round.
Tiny might need to buy back if they decide to go inside the pit. Like, this is a tough situation for him. 20 seconds, you do not want to buy back, but you might need to.
Yeah, you're right. A good call. And they waveform in. The silence, though, they can't ravage. It's delayed. He comes out now, and Arm snatches the Aegis as Pakas kills the Roshan. Morphling, BKB'd up, just wailing away at this TA. E-Blade is there, but Templar Assassin's still pretty healthy as the Aegis gets used by the Gyro, and that terrorized arena missing completely. Pandaboo, the only real casualty so far, but Matthew will follow him into the grave.
Yeah, I think Tiny buys back there. If they go for that kind of a play inside the Roche pit, he needs to buy back. There is a tier 1, tier 2 tower, so he can relatively easy connect with 1 blink. So I'm very surprised he didn't do it. I said it's a tough situation, because either you say, let it go, and you don't do anything. Because right now, the game, like, we have a game. This is a pretty even game right now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I guess the one silver lining for Thunder Predator is that Aegis did get reclaimed almost immediately, right? Gyro picked it up, he died, so they don't have that double life on SG. They're still hitting this double BKB timing, like the panel mentioned, is so incredibly strong for them, with Gyro and TA both doing tremendous amounts of damage. But this tiny move, oh, he blinks out of the avalanche. Didn't get the Avatos combo, and the blinks away. Allows LTH, Hiko, Arms, all to sprint back through the river. Pakas not done just yet, though. They smoke and try and run, but the chase is on. Pakas stunned by the Cursed Crown, and Gyro BKBs and calls down. Nightmare to buy a bit of time and save up the Morphling, who turns back with a flat cannon.
There's the grip on Gyro.
Blows up the Widge Ogre, and Arms is down. Gyro gone for 60. Morphling should find another here, but Hiko with a great spear disengages from the Morphling, while LTH has been left alone. Ogre's buyback will do very little. It's still Thunder Predator out on the map with 5 alive and looking for another high ground push.
Dark Willow bought back in the previous fight, so she's not gonna be in the next fight for almost full minute. 25 seconds until Ravage. That's gonna be a big one. Tidehunter, like, they can't burst it. That's the thing. Let's see if they try to do so, but yeah, Nightmare save.
Yeah. Mars just dead. 70 seconds without him now.
Ooh, Gyro also buying
Curious
back.
decision. Yeah, jumping that Tidehunter. You've been calling it all game, Lacoste. Like, you can't kill this Tide. Even if he's like half HP, he's got Hood, he's got Halberd. There is no touching Oscar, and Widge just died back, walks into the midst of them all, and still Thunder Predator, with everybody up and running, will look to clear through this lane of barracks. Maybe even shift towards bottom lane, which is already, what, tier 3 at 180 HP. They're pinging out mid. I think they try Megas here. Can they do it?
Yeah, definitely. 50 seconds without Ogre, 30 without Mars, so that means you need to take a fight 3 versus 5, and also Gyrocopter used buyback, which means that he's not gonna be the one trying to front line. If he dies, the game just ends immediately. Look at his positioning, hiding behind that tree.
Well, he's used cooldown, and BKB, TA is trying to get on top of Pakaz, but he just manters away from the Meld Strike and focuses the buildings as Oscar's in. Big Blink Ravage onto arms. That's the dieback Gyro. Nightmare save on the Tide, and Dark Margaret tosses back the Dark Willow. She's trapped between everybody of Thunder Predator, and that's got to surely signal the end of the game here for SG in game 1. TA jumped again, and there's the grip. Panda boot isolates the Templar Assassin, minus armor galore, and a godlike Morphling. The free game for him, 9-0-8 on Pakaz.
Yeah. Great performance by Morphling. I think both teams had a lot of mistakes, unnecessary mistakes, especially in the mid game. The one from Thunder Predator, which allowed SG to go inside the Roche pit. They need to play a bit more careful, but definitely showed a better performance. And I'd say they had a better draft. SG, they gave him a bit too many of these top tier heroes. Morphling, it was such a great pick. Like, we didn't see him turning into Dark Willow because there was no Aghanim Scepter, so his main target was Gyrocopter going in, turning into him. They have no silences, like, that's the problem. Templar Assassin picked up Shard eventually, but like, once you have Manta Style and BKB, you really don't care too much about it. They try to focus him down, not successful. My man managed to get 0 deaths in this game, and yeah, that was kind of expected considering what he was playing against.
Yeah, and speaking of expected, I feel like I said this when SG played against Infamous as well, but going into that series and then coming into this series, we expect SG to lose.
Yes.
But in both series, there's been signs of life. There have been moves they've made and decisions they're making mid-game, which, from inexperienced or lower level teams, we kind of expect them to do well in lanes and then mid-game kind of crumble. But I think even against Thunder Predator, SG showing some flashes of brilliance, some signs of life, but we'll see if the panel thinks the same way, as we'll chuck it back to Nomad and the boys.
Hello, Design Nomad. That was a pretty entertaining game, actually. I think SG put up a much better fight than perhaps I initially gave them credit for, but in the end, it wasn't quite enough, and Thunder Predator do pull off the inevitable. What was the deciding moment of that game for you, Snare?
There were a couple of things, right? I do think that, one of the reasons that SG was able to have a better showing, I don't think this was the cleanest game from the side of Thunder Predator, like Lacoste mentioned, but for me, the absolute turning point in the game was in a situation where I started to actually worry about the side of Thunder Predator. There was that one fight where Lacoste was saying that Tiny should have brought back to try and defend that Aegis, and that fight didn't really go well initially for Thunder Predator around the pit. Although they end up taking the Aegis immediately as soon as it gets taken, it's still a rough situation. A lot of gold goes the way of the Gyrocopter, of this Templar Assassin. But literally in the next minute after that moment happens, when Tiny comes back to life, they take a fight where they sort of chase them all across the map. But the key thing they did is Tiny initiated on TA in the middle of the game, like in that mid lane. However, Gyrocopter was busy fighting against the rest of the team with the Morphling closer to the Roshan pit. And unfortunately, though, Gyro could turn with BKB active, not really threatened by Oscar anymore because there's no Ravage available. Turns, he goes in, he really wants to fight. Unfortunately, there is still a Bane in this game. Panda Boot gets out the Fiend's Grip. They get out the damage necessary from the Morphling because Pakaz is not scared of a Gyrocopter who's not using spells. And then, like 30 seconds later, Gyro has to buy back to defend the base. And immediately I was like, this game is over. There's no way that they can come back from that situation. So it was one of these weird things where had they, after losing that Aegis, decided not to push in through that mid lane where they'd already claimed a tier 2 tower, top lane tier 2 not really that valuable for them. They have some jungle stacks they can go back to instead of trying to invade Radiant jungle and Radiant triangle. If they did that instead, waited a few more minutes, a little bit longer, this game would probably still be going on. But they decided to go forward even after losing the Aegis and even whilst knowing that they're still a little bit behind. Couple of bad fights later, not even a couple of bad fights, one bad fight later, one buyback on Gyrocopter later, the game ends and there's nothing you can do.
Absolutely. It was a sad state of affairs for poor old SG in the end. I mean, there was a glimmer of hope with that TA there, but the Gyrocopter never really kind of took over the momentum. Why was that, Astini?
You asked about the gyro, but I would like also to mention that the Mars didn't scale because you had on one side, you had the gyro and you had TA. You had 2 cores online. The other side, you had Tiny, Tide, and the Morphling. And what felt weird to me is that the Mars didn't scale because he played a sacrificial game. I guess he rushed the Blink Dagger, and they were on a trading farm game. And if you rush that dagger on a game that you are trading farm and just protecting your side of the map, then you don't scale. And then it was like 2 against 3 cores on fights, and then that's why Gyro felt a bit underwhelming. And I strongly believe also because of the carry matchup. As a Gyro against a Morphling, it's super hard to feel that you can carry the game. That's why it was most on TA hands to do something.
What would you have liked SG to do differently then?
A more greedy build from Heiko, maybe going for that Helm of Dominator or an early BKB that just allows his hero to scale way better, and a little bit more of patience when they got that favorable trades, because they got favorable trades and they would just overextend and give away what they just gotten from Thunder Predator. If they had a little bit more of patience, because it's a game that you have TA and gyro, so you scale a lot. You're not under a timing, like you're not playing against the clock, so they should be a little bit more patient. That Tiny will lose impact with the game going on because it's a burst hero and he doesn't scale that much on the burst besides the talent. They should just be a bit more calm and they could have won.
Bit more calm, so it's maybe a bit more of a mentality thing perhaps for the side of SG. But Thunder Predator, their mentality was great this game. The whole time they just kind of seemed very confident. Like, yes, there were mistakes for sure, but I never really felt like they were panicking. I never really felt like they were making any kind of desperate moves. They just kind of seemed really confident. I guess that's what happens though when you have that Morphling player, right? Like Pakaz Morphling. Yeah. You just know he loves the hero so much, and you know that if he gets that late game and in this matchup, he is going to win. So kind of felt like they were playing with that huge safeguard behind them, which was very difficult for poor old SG to answer in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. We could actually just see how Thunder Predator was moving around the game. There was this weird, awkward moment between like 18 and 23 minutes where Thunder Predator were really trying to force a fight. They played as 5 like around the Dire Triangle a long time. However, the one hero that wasn't really playing with the team, Packers would get farm in the triangle, get farm in this bottom lane, and you could tell the team, they'd be like, we want to make something happen. And that's why situations like this, for example, when a fight breaks out, they're so desperate. They're like, oh, let's use these spells. We know that this Tiny is going to stop scaling at some point. We know that Oscar wants to fight right now. Let's do this. But what stress is there? Packers is doing everything. He's getting this massive amount of farm. And, Lacoste mentioned it in the game that early on, TA, you always get ahead. But Morphling will eventually catch up and will eventually stay ahead in that situation. And we end up seeing it be the case. Amazing spells to be able to take over. And every single fight, it just really felt like it was a race to see how much damage can we get out from this Gyrocopter before the Morphling just turns around and kills us all. And this was basically the last fight in the game where they got chased back. Things were too difficult. Now, another thing that we need to really pay attention to in this game and why it was so possible for them to win, the first 15 minutes, right? Let's look at what Dark Mega was doing. Sure, it ends with like a very impressive score, 8-2 and 14. It looks great. But most of the impact wasn't simply him getting kills, but it was him dissuading the rest of SG Esports from wanting to fight. You see this Tiny rolling across the map. You're like, oh my gosh, this is too difficult to deal with. We need time to get to our BKBs, to get to our tankier items. But while you're taking that time, guess who's also farming? Is this Morphling getting crazy far ahead? And yes, although you do get this BKB timings that allows you to actually fight into Thunder Predator, the one BKB on the Morphling turned out in this game to be more value than the double BKB from TA Gyrocopter, just because of how much more impact he himself has in the fights. And end of the day, Thunder Predator don't need to do, I mean, besides the mistakes, like you said, they don't have to do anything desperate, because why would you need to do that? You have the win condition almost guaranteed for yourself. As long as Morphling is not dying, the game is still fine at any given point in time. If he's still going strong, and he stayed strong, not a single death at the end, the most net worth, the most damage dealt, the most GPM, the most XPM, most building damage, just free Morphling game. Free Morphling game. This is just what happens.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. And, like we said before the game even started, in the drafting phase, what do they have to deal with this morphling? How do they play into this morph, really? And at the end of the day, there just wasn't really enough in the tank, unfortunately, for old SG. And that means that Thunder Predator will take the first game in the first of 3 series, but it is a 3-game series, and we do have another match to come up. At the very least, one more chance for SG to fight back against Thunder Predator. I felt like they showed promise in this game as a thing. I mean, in the way they played it, the game was even in the middle of the match, around like that 20-25 minute mark. Like the game was actually looking pretty even. They've managed to get themselves a Roshan, like that's kind of a good sign for SG. But I think I just want to see SG actually go for a more teamfight focused lineup this time around and just kind of play into like a full 5-man roster. Because they've shown that they can go toe-to-toe with Thunder Predator in the right circumstances. And Thunder Predator, they're not bulletproof. They will make mistakes. And I think SG, the problem they had was that they had, they didn't have the late game secured. And they also didn't have, a fantastic way to just kind of death ball down on Thunder Predator. I don't know. What do you guys think that maybe that's an adjustment they could make for game number 2 to play into what they did well in game 1?
I think it's a draft thing, right? When the other team has the second pick, you usually have that advantage on the carry matchup. That's why it was so hard. But then they choose not to play fast-paced. They choose to be greedy. So maybe if they have that second pick, then they play greedy because they will have the advantage on the carry matchup. Or if they have first pick again, then they try to do some fast-paced draft, maybe with Luna, with Duza, or even the TA, but as hard carry, that you just hit that Deso timing, fast rush, and run into Thunder Predator. Because even though they played an amazing game, it's still Paca's sitting on 0 deaths. We felt like, oh, they almost did it, but they didn't manage to kill him once. So if you're playing on a carry matchup that's not favorable at all, it's going to be extremely difficult for SG.
I see. So you're feeling like it's more like get themselves the carry-to-carry matchup, which favors them a little bit more, and maybe that will put them in a better position. All right. Well, looking forward to game number 2. Then, do you think there's any kind of special picks that SG can pull out in this second game to kind of catch Thunder Predator off guard? Is there any hero throughout this game you're thinking, man, this would have been really good here, Snare?
I'm pretty sure, right, that throughout that entire game, that Hiko was like, I wish I was playing Tidehunter instead of playing the Mars hero.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks. Like,
Definitely.
They should just, honestly, I think it's one of these situations where it's regrettable, but when you're playing a team that has favored against you, has more experience than you, has better accolades than you, has clearly better understanding of the game than you right now, one of the things you do is simplify your life, right? To make this kind of draft work for the side of SG Esports, even the best team in the world would struggle, right? Finding the farm on the map for all of these heroes, knowing exactly when to fight, what the itemization is going to be. Mars, for example, for Hiko, had to go for the early Blink Dagger because he thought his team was going to be fighting. Suddenly, the game turned into a farm fest. Oh, snap. I wish I'd gotten something else. I wish I had Armlet maybe, and I'm very far away from getting BKB. But if I was playing a hero where if I can blink and press one button, I'm still useful in the fight, markedly different than playing a hero where I still need a lot of progression to find effectiveness. So simplify the draft, make things a lot easier for yourself. Don't pick a lineup that's going to, at some point, require the whole team to be sitting back, farming, waiting for one next item, especially when you know that the enemy team is much better at being able to abuse the farm on the map than you are. I mean, we were speaking about this, that this is like the Thunder Predator thing to do. A 5 minutes of dead portion of the map where nothing's happening but farm. Great, we're probably winning it for Thunder Predator. Don't allow them to do that. Pick heroes that allow you to play more aggressively into them. So I also could have thought about, like, if they wanted to play more aggressively early, potentially some Night Stalker or something in the off lane, or rather than a Mars. But I just feel like they should lower the bar of execution just a little bit, make life a lot easier for themselves by if you're gonna pick aggression, go all in on the aggression. Have one farmer in the back. Ironically enough, similar to what Thunder Predator did, and it looked pretty good for them. So good enough for the best, probably good enough for you. So make it easy, pick stuff that wins, that you can just press R and win the game. It's a very nice place to be. So I think that's what they should do for game 2.
Always a nice position to be in when you can put yourself in this situation where you just have the stronger spells. It's so much easier just to rock up to team fights when you've got something. I thought along those lines, and I feel like the Void would have fitted their draft way better than the Gyrocopter did. I feel like it would have just kind of given them something more to play around, because I really feel like that's where they're lacking. And there's TA's running around, she's like, look how much farm I've got, guys. Like, okay, great. Well, none of us really have a big ability to back you up with. The Mars was kind of beaten down from the start, and the Gyrocopter just never really came on the board. I feel like just give them a carry with a nice big team fight ulti would have maybe patched that up. But let's talk a little bit more about Thunder Predator. What was it you really liked about what they did this game, Astini?
Well, what they do every game, that all their cores are super farmed. Pandaboo, this guy, he always has the perfect ultimate, because they had the tools to cancel his ultimate, but he always has the perfect ultimate. This guy, you need to respect ban a position 5. That's why it's so hard to play against this team. And then you ban his Abaddon, his Bane, he still has the Ogre, and then more heroes from Dark Mago are open. So their team fight, it's so amazing how they fight. Like, even without Ravage, they took the tier 1 tower. You feel like, okay, why they're taking this fight? And then you just see those amazing toss back and kills that they're getting on a team fight they should be winning. It's just like how they fight. That's amazing. So they have farmed cores, and when they have the items, they know how to fight perfectly. This team, I really would like to see them play an international LAN, and I strongly believe we'll see this by the end of this DPC season.